All right, let's dive into it, guys. So I want to give a shout out to Bill Sparks on Twitter, who has a Substack, who I based this topic around. He did the research. I found it, and I want to tell y'all, Bill does some really good work. Go find his Substack. You can find him on Twitter. He tweets about Brown stuff all the time. But this particular Substack topic was looking at the historical precedent of fourth round or later drafted quarterbacks who got a certain amount of starts in their second year. Since 2016, there have been 6 of these guys. This is the criteria that Bill looked at in making his study. Quarterbacks drafted in the fourth round or later since 2016 and made those 6 or more starts in their second year. He wanted to see, based off what history tells us, what the Browns could potentially expect from Shedeur Sanders in the 2026 season. That fit that criteria, there were 6 quarterbacks. Let's take a look at the 6. Trevor Siemian.
Now look at that list.
Who just signed with the Atlanta Falcons about an hour ago, so he's joining Kevin Stefanski's quarterback room. Dak Prescott, Gardner Minshew, Sam Howell, Brock Purdy, and Aiden O'Connell. Just 6 quarterbacks fit that criteria of a fourth-round draft pick or later and started 6 games in their sophomore season. Bill then put an average together, a composite of their stats, and this is what the average was for those 6 quarterbacks in their second season. They averaged to start 13 games, completed 64.1% of their passes for 3,317 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. This, for the most part, ranked between quarterback 18 and quarterback 22 in the league in that particular year. So, if this is what Shedeur puts up in 2026, if he follows this statistical outline set by the 6 prior quarterbacks in this study, would the Browns think they have a franchise quarterback moving forward? Would that solve their quarterback question? Or would Shedeur have to do more to cement himself as the future franchise quarterback for the Cleveland Browns?
I'm going to commend you, McNuggets, because you did a very good job of putting us in a bag. You did a very good job. Usually you pose something where G. Bush has to be like, no, I'm not taking Kyler Murray. No, we're not doing that. We might give him Malik Willis none of this money. But you did something very interesting. You picked all of these doggone people, right? And there's some good, there's some bad. You know, if I'm squinting real tough and you say, look at these names, I want to look at Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. That's it. I want to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, look at these names. 2 of these are not like the others.
Yeah, like
It
those
totally skews everything.
It does skew. So you put it in a way where everybody. But here's what we're gonna do. Here's how I got to look at it.
This is Bill Sparks did the study. I just turned it into a TV topic.
Okay, but if you take a 300-pound person and you take an 80-pound person and say, well, the average person is 190. Come on.
How big would he be when it's all over with?
And then it's tricky because if you take a look at those numbers, right? But yet and still, I look at it and say,
it's not terrible.
It's not bad, and but
it's a boxing though.
But you can look at them numbers and say, okay, what if he did that against bad teams in crunch time, or bad teams when the games was out of reach and they was losing? We discounting them. Or you could look at that and say, did you have 3,300, 19 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, but you led 3 fourth quarter drives against really good football teams and won football games? Them numbers look completely different because we can justify it based on what you actually see.
So that kind of leads to my point. I told Mike before we got to this topic, like I kind of feel like, you know, no shot at the analytic people and people who kind of do studies and stats and come up with these to make topics, but I knew that I was going to alter the question. So for me, and I had to write these down so I don't forget them.
Okay.
I don't think stats tell the whole story. I think how you arrive at the stats tell more of a story. Mike, put the stats back up. The question is, if you've seen these stats from Shedeur Sanders, is that enough to convince you he's your franchise quarterback? And quite honestly, I just think that's a bit disingenuous. And here's the reason why. How you arrive to those stats matter to me. 19 touchdowns, 3,300 yards, 64% completion percentage. All that look cool. But this is what I want to see from Shedeur Sanders in year 2. Playing more on schedule. Not putting the football in dangerous spots. Maintain the ability to play off schedule. Situational football, meaning how does he perform in that 4-minute offense, the 2-minute offense, and in the red zone. Game management. How does he manage the game with the lead? How does he manage the game without the lead? That'd tell me more about how he arrived to those stats. Because if he got 11 interceptions, but 8 of those interceptions are in the red zone, then no, that's not good.
Right.
If you got 3,300 yards, but the Browns is down 28-7 all the time, and you ain't got no choice but to air it out, well, it's easy to arrive at 3,300 yards like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're doing nothing but check downs and you somehow got a 64% completion percentage, okay, well, obviously it's going to be like that. The stats to me is just disingenuous, and I get the whole study and, you know, what history says, but to me, every time in real life I think history going to repeat itself, it don't. I just ain't got that type of luck. I just feel like the best course of action is to actually watch Shedeur Sanders play quarterback this year and assess him on the things and the elements and the key parts of the game that actually matter. And if that eye test add up to those stats and you can compare those and move forward, cool. But me personally, I can't look at that and say that's my measuring stick one way or another if he's the quarterback moving forward or not.
Jason,
That makes sense.
I'm gonna send it to you, but see, I can't do that. See, it's gonna look like I'm tap dancing. So after you go, I am gonna give you the list of numbers that he has to hit, and if he hits these, I ain't gonna question nothing. He the quarterback. I am gonna give you that, McNuggets. I'll tell you what the numbers need to look like if I don't think that 30, but the 3,300 just on. It's ambiguous right now. It would be average.
You're looking at me like I just pulled these out of midair.
Okay.
This is what those 6 quarterbacks did. I'm just giving you the
All right.
average.
Yeah, but again, the data set that you pulled to get those numbers is insane because 2 guys are doing all the work.
Yeah.
And 4 others are doing
Heavy lifting.
the B.
Heavy lifting, right?
Ain't no O'Connell like, yes!
Dak and Brock did the group project themselves, and Sam Howell showed up the day of and said, "What are we doing, boys?
Put my name on
Put my
here."
name on
Trevor
it."
Simeon, like, listen.
B plus.
You see what type of category I'm in?
I created the PowerPoint. I did the PowerPoint. And slide number 2.
So that part makes all of this insane. But fine, we'll set that aside because we have time to kill. It's March. I agree with everything that you said, that it's how you get to the numbers. The numbers don't matter as much as how you get to the numbers. And part of the reason why I know everyone hates advanced stats, part of the reason you have advanced stats is because you can't always count on those numbers. So the analytical numbers tell you the rest of the story quite often. Nothing is perfect, but quite often. The analytics take into account a lot of those yards. And again, I wrote about this. Part of the reason that Shedeur's analytics were so bad was because some of his yards were empty yards by analytical measures. If it's 3rd and 10 and you throw for 7 yards, those are empty yards because you didn't convert. You didn't get the first down. And a lot of his fell into that category. That's why the metrics fell as low as they did. But to just look at a set of numbers, I'll tell you, like I look at those numbers, I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. I take that for year 2. Like on to just look on the surface level.
Yeah,
But you got to see how you got there.
Yeah.
I mean, Jameis threw for, I just looked it up real quick. Jameis threw for 2,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Gone. And you're telling me if Shedeur has numbers like that, I'm like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'd consider that in 7 games. But you saw Jameis playing with the Browns. That wasn't the answer. At least I watched him play that year and thought, well, he's not the long-term answer. So it's not always just the counting stats of yards, touchdowns, interceptions. That's what gets people into trouble. That's why so many people roll their eyes when people start reciting college stats and, well, look how many yards he threw for in college. All right, well, look at what Colt Brennan threw for in college at Hawaii. What happened to Colt Brennan?
Shout out to Timmy Chang.
What was the dude who played quarterback at, I think it was Oklahoma, some time ago, maybe late 90s, early 2000s. I think he was like a Heisman Trophy winner
Jason
2 times.
White.
I couldn't think of his last name. Jason
Did dude
White.
ever even get drafted?
No. He might have been a late pick, but nothing ever came of him.
McNuggets, 13. This is in 13 starts. 13 starts. How many yards a game is that in terms of?
I'll figure that one sec. But
But
you mentioned Purdy and Dak doing the heavy lifting. These are each of the quarterback's stats in the second year.
Okay.
I want to individually. So Dak started 16 games, threw for 3,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. So and we put up the average. So slightly better than the average. Dak had 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, and basically the yards were on the dot. More touchdowns, more picks. Purdy is the big outlier. He threw for 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. That's by far the best of the seasons. Trevor Simeon, You ready for this?
I'd have thought Minshew was next, so I am interested to hear this. From
Yeah,
Simeon.
no, I really am interested now.
Simeon started 14 games, 3,400 yards, 18 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
Way better than I thought.
I'll take that.
Way better than I thought.
I'll take that.
Aiden O'Connell started 9 games, 1,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. So a little less, but still the sample size. Minshew, 16 touchdowns to 5 interceptions in just 9 starts. So 16 touchdowns in 9 starts. Threw for 2,300 yards in those 9 starts. And last but not least, you had Sam Howell. This is where the interception gets boosted. He started 17 games, threw for 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 21 picks. So he's the outlier from an interception ratio.
And if you
Simeon, I give full credit to Trevor Simeon. That's way better than
he
I would have.
cooked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Purdy was your outlier on the high end. Minshew, had he played more, would have been up in that on the same trajectory, would have been up there with better numbers than Dak. Howell with 21 interceptions is your biggest, I guess, outlier in the interception side. But even Aiden O'Connell had a 2-to-1 touchdown interception, 8-4, not a ton of yards, but
If
8-4 is something.
if McNuggets, if he get if he 2-to-1 touchdown, I gotta stamp it. If it's 2-to-1. If it's 2-to-1 and it's anything in the 20s, 2-to-1 touchdown and anything over 20 touchdowns. If you telling me you gonna give me 23 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, I will take that. Now let's look at these yards. Now,
And I did the division. It's about 250 yards a game.
250. How many touchdowns?
19.
19 divided by 13, 1.4 a game. The yards is good, the touchdowns isn't good, and
But
it's about an
again,
interception.
yeah.
per
I
game.
wouldn't get hung up on the touchdowns. I think that can be misleading. If you throw it all the way to the one and
screens.
then run it in,
Yeah, if it's 10 screen, if he got 5 screen passes, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I think
Running backs got 15 touchdowns in the season, 600 yards rushing.
that's why it's the definition of porn. You know it when you see it.
Yeah, you're right. You just know. You be like, what is you watching? Or if it makes you uncomfortable if your parents are sitting there. If you're watching TV and it's a racy scene, you like, oh, hey, Mom, you might want to you want to cover their eyes. They're like, well, how you think you got here? You better stop it.
I don't know, G. I know you the Duke of knee jerk. I wouldn't get bogged down on no numbers. I'm telling you.
No, what I'm trying to do is stamp it. I don't care. Because here's the thing. What if the team's bad? Some numbers do matter. If the team is bad and they don't won 3 games, right? But he goes out and his numbers is...
He has a Deshaun Watson 2019 season.
Yeah, like if it's the Deshaun Watson 2019 season, then you're like, okay, well, we just need to get some more things.
All right, so then I will ask you this, and this is person to person, fan to fan, everybody look at it differently. I've asked this question before. Do you or do you not view wins as a quarterback stat or not?
I was going to say that. So
It is not a quarterback stat.
But here's the thing. If you take in consideration and you look at those numbers, right? But if the Cleveland Browns is playing winning football and they get, I told them I wanted to get 8, right? If they get 8 wins, I'm ecstatic. They mess around and flirt with 9, I'm like, okay, we cooking with something because you was getting 5. If you take a look at those stats and they won 8, 9 games and you didn't expect them to do that, and then you look at the games that he played, and some of the games that he played, he led fourth quarter comebacks. Some of the games he did, he made sure that he got his team in field goal position to kick the game-winning field goal. Some of those games, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but he didn't turn the ball over, and the other team did, and they got the win. If you tell me and they look at it, and he's winning more games than what you expected, and those are the numbers, then the numbers just go into a situation where it's just kind of backing up the notion that he is a franchise or can be and continue to look for growth. I don't think I don't think the thing is with him as franchise quarterback is he needs to succeed in being, is he worth investing another year in and not drafting a quarterback in 2027?
Well, that's why I said
that is to me, that's what the bar is.
Yeah.
You know, some people, depending on where you are with it, some people think, you know, you can't be critical of Shedeur or you struggle with it. I listed out a list of things that I needed to see from Shedeur Sanders in his sophomore season. And I believe that if he can complete this list, check off the things on this list, then he warrants himself another year of being a quarterback in 2027, especially if the Cleveland Browns are winning at the same time. But it's just hard for me to look at stats and say, yep, if I see this, that's enough for me to move forward. And I think what Jason said is interesting, that, you know, people who do the advanced stats, they kind of break down the basic stats, and that's how they come up with their formula. Maybe I'm just one of those people to where, not saying that I ignore the data, but the data don't really, to me, always tell a whole story, or it doesn't give 100% guarantee on how things are going to project itself out going forward. Because, like, I've heard all the talk about the the EPA, and quite honestly, the EPA don't match what my eye saw. That's just me. So I don't care about EPA. I don't care about his ETA. For all I know, he's still coming across Eddie Road. I don't care about none of that, right?
I want to ask this.
Like for real, like I just want to be able to see it with the eyes and then come back at the end of the season and make an assessment based off that.
What I want to do is, I'm going to give Jason the last word on this, because I'm interested in your thought process. You know, guys like us, we already know what we talk about, or we see some things in Shedeur. What would it take for you? What would you need to see that would be the most important, where you would go and say, after 2026, I think the Browns might have found a quarterback? What does he have to do statistically, or and specifically for you, the eye test as well?
It's not as much the stats. It is, number one, does the offense pull its weight? Number one, because the offense didn't pull its weight last year. So is the offense functioning at a high level? Is it thriving? And this goes back to what I said. You know when you see it.
Right.
Is he throwing picks on early downs? Is he taking sacks on late downs? Is he holding on to the ball too long? Now, there's quarterbacks. Caleb Williams holds on to the ball really long, and then he makes really good things happen at the end. Is Shedeur?
That's crazy.
Is Shedeur?
Shedeur is Shedeur Sanders.
Somebody is about to name their son Shedeur somewhere.
And Shedeur. Is Shedeur holding on to the ball to allow guys to get open and make good things happen at the end, or is he holding on to the ball because he doesn't know what to do with it? And I think, again, you know it when you see it. And the part of the reason, if his advanced metrics were great, everybody would love him. The fact that they aren't good is why everyone's like, screw them, they don't mean anything. Well, the reason they got there is because he was throwing interceptions on early downs and he was taking sacks on late downs. And when you take sacks on late downs, it takes you out of field goal range. It takes you out of the ability to go for it on fourth down. This is all the game of, on third down, do you put yourself in position to go for it on fourth down now, or if you take a sack on 3rd and 4, well, now it's 4th and 8. Now you got to punt. So it's those types of things, and that's why, again, it goes beyond the numbers. But does he have command? I do think that there's guys who believe in him. I've never doubted that at all. I just think that I see a lot more problems than I think other people do, and we'll find out. Like, we got 6 months. We're gonna see. Yeah. But you'll know it when you see it. If he cleans up a lot of that stuff, being able to get rid of the ball faster. And you can still hold on to the ball. You can still. It's not always a bad thing because you hold on to the ball. It's not always a bad. The linemen don't like you very much, but you can still make good things happen by holding on to the ball. It's when you hold on to the ball too long because you don't know what to do with it, and then you're taking sacks on the back end. That's where bad things happen.